I just played it like he wanted me to, but.
No wonder Larry was a little bit bummed when he got back from those sessions.
Yeah,
he jammed,
sure.
he loved it, but he felt.
I'm sure Joe ran the show.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, Joe was paying for it. So.
Yeah, he's a producer, so you got to let him do it.
Josh Smith and I was there at the sessions, for 2 days here in town, and Steve was telling me about going through dialysis and shit, and I'm like, Larry goes, we can't fly him out there. They ain't got the same stuff in LA as they got here. I'm like, you're shitting me. In LA, they ain't got that?
Well, I think it's an appointment thing or something he's got set up, Scott, because that's why he's working with us. He can't really go on the road with Larry because he doesn't. So Larry's got this other guy that's been playing drums with him.
And we were having dinner, and Stevie's like, I can't do it, Scotty. I'm just fucking doing everything local. I'm like, oh man. He said, but they're gonna come and let me do a track or two. I said, okay. And then I didn't go down to Detroit when Bob Mossy came to town, but I caught Stevie's post, and I went. Larry's one of my neighbors, so I see him a lot. But
Larry's a good guy too.
What a crazy time, man.
Yeah, it's funny that he ran that whole situation happened with Bonamassa showing up in town and Josh Smith. I mean, it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, there is a story more longer than that. Paul died.
Right.
So
did his brother just die?
Yes. He's my neighbor. The house
name I saw on TV that time.
Yeah. Tommy's gone.
Paul Cook's brother.
Tommy Cook. Yeah. Tommy passed last September. Yeah.
That was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that night I went over to Larry's. He's a mile around the block from my house, and Larry's like, my fucking phone, Scotty, just going nuts. He's playing. And he says, grab a guitar, Scotty. So we're playing, and he's answering like the guys from Chicago are calling, not the band, but all the cats. The Kinsey brothers are calling. Warren Haynes is calling. Everybody's calling Larry, and we jammed till about 4 a.m. I said, I'm gonna go home and sleep, man. And we had a couple drinks, and Larry goes, he says, come on back to, before I head out, Peggy's coming home this day, blah, blah, blah. And Peggy and my wife hang out, so we were like, all right. And I get back to Larry's, and he goes, take this, gives my phone, and it's Warren, and he says, I'm going to come to town in July with Bonamassa, so meet me in Detroit. He says, do you want to go down, Scotty? And I know Warren. I used to run mule train stuff, so I'm like, yeah, let's go. I said, let's make a date out of it. So Larry and I talked back and forth about this coming up. That was in April or May. And June come around, I said, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. He says, he's always up in the air, but Bonamassa wants to do something, but he says, Larry's always like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Freaking that week came around, I'm trying to get a hold of Larry. Nothing going on, I'm like, come on, man. You get a hold of me, Larry. So I'm calling him, are we going to Detroit? Because I got Saturday off. I didn't book a gig. Let's go to Detroit, Nothing. Monday comes around, and Kevin Novolino's like, Bonamassa's in town. He's on my Instagram right now. He's in Bay City. I call Larry. Larry goes, hey, Scotty, I'm at dinner. I was going to call you, man. Yeah, he says, it didn't go down Saturday, but motherfucker's in town. He's putting that shit on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, I know, Larry. We'll hook up, man. I'll be over tomorrow, man. What do you want? I don't need nothing. Just if you want to show up, man, just show up when you can. I'm like, okay. He says, I don't know why he's posting it. I'm like, well, dude, he's proud to post Bay City. He's sneaking into town. He's doing something special. We'll keep it on the DL, Yeah. And so we did 2 days, and I interviewed him. I did the Route Bay City story, and I was bringing in a tune too for it. But then Joe was like, my ears are burned out, man. No, whatever. The funny thing is, though, I interviewed Joe 8 years before that. This is great. That's all on freaking video here. And Joe, I sit down and see Joe for the first time since I've seen him at his gig and interviewed him over the phone years ago for that gig in Saginaw, And there he goes, Scott, Joe, Scott, Josh, Josh. And Joe, you might remember Scott. He interviewed you. He goes, what for what? It's the Heritage Theater show. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, and I told Larry a long time ago, I said, one of the biggest dicks I ever interviewed was Joe.
Yeah.
And he goes, how was I at that interview, man? I says, you want the honest truth? And Larry looks at me. I said, Larry's whips his head around. I said, you were a dick. And Larry's like, his eyes like,
yeah, I can imagine Larry.
And Joe goes, dude, he says, I get that all the time. I'm sorry, man. I says, to be honest, Joe, I was a dick right back to you, man. Yeah. I says, we both had the wrong questions and answers for each other. Yeah. We weren't jiving that day. He goes, well, thank you, bro, for taking care of it and still doing the story. I'm glad I'm cool. I said, you're always cool, man. Your show was great. You invited me to the show. I had a good time. I says, that happens. We all have our days. I says, I was wondering how the hell you couldn't write on the road. You were like, I don't write on the road. I write in the studio. And you were pissed. And then he's like, it's what I do, man. He goes like this. And Larry goes, I'm like, it's all good, man. I'm like, all right. Backpedaling from there.
And sometimes I think in that case, I think Joe Bonamassa is a little bit arrogant. I'm going to use that term. I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. The man's
he's a
good.
monster, yeah.
But there are people that are good, like Clapton, that don't act that way. And I remember a show that Anna and I got to go to one time. Anna had met somebody that knew the photographer for John Oates, and he got his backstage passes at Pine Knob at that time before it became DTE. And we got to go backstage, and I got to sit there with a sound check with Hall & Oates. I'm on the side of the stage. It's really cool, man. I'm hearing all this shit. And Daryl Hall was a prick.
Was he?
I mean, he came off the stage, and he was yelling at sound men. And, I mean, you worked enough, and if you have an issue with the sound man, you say, hey, I can't hear my monitors or something, you do that, or I need more bottom end of my microphone.
I learned to work with them on a happy level.
Exactly.
They'll give you what you want.
Exactly. And they got this big thing called a suck knob that they can really control you.
Absolutely.
It's hidden on that board somewhere that they can really make you sound shitty.
They push it with the middle finger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Daryl Hall walked off the stage, and he walked past me, and I said, man, I said, sound pretty good. He gave me the dirtiest look. I mean,
He didn't want to hear it.
He didn't want to hear it, man. I thought, well, he doesn't know who I am, and I don't. That's as far as I want to take this because, But some of those guys, and like Ann said, well, maybe he's having a bad day, but you don't know. You
never know, man. I met Steve Vai a few times over the years, and one of the first times I met him was at St. Andrews Hall. My buddy Mike Keneally from Frank Zappa's band was on tour, and I got to know Mike all these years. I did all this online stuff for him like I did for Warren Haynes for Government Mule. And when Z came to town with Dweezil Zappa, Mike's like, I want you to do some stuff for him. I'm coming back solo. Yeah. Well, then he says, I'm on this Vi tour. So Vi comes, and I always loved Steve Vai. So freaking Vi walks upstairs. It's me, my girlfriend at the time, the sound guy, and Toss Panos, the drummer from Zappa's band, and Mike Keneally's band who opened. And Mike was gone. And Vi looks at the thing and goes, the fuck did I tell you? He picks up all this salami and whips it into the wall. And he's like, this is bullshit. It's a vegan fucking tray. How many fucking places do we have to play before we get this? And he takes off. And I'm sitting there on the floor talking with them guys, and he just walks away. But I saw Vi and I hung out with him maybe 3 or 4 times after that over the years. And he's like, hey, how you doing, man? What's going on,
Yeah, you just don't know sometimes.
You know what? Yeah, you never know what mood they're in, You
never know. If they've been touring a lot and they're tired, or you just don't know. I mean, it's just... It's amazing.
I just remember whipping salami into the wall. I'm like, wow, I better get out of this room.
Wow.
Clear out now. Guitar player's pissed.
Yeah.
But I worked with Wagner for years, man, and Dick was trying to get his thing going here. I was at the Wagner studio at the end for the last 3 years. Yeah. And I got to go down and have dinner with Jerry Murata and trying to get the trio, trying to get him and Steve Hunter back together. When Steve flew to town, I did the story on that. And I started seeing how some of this shit rolled from back then, and they had such high expectations. Dick did too. I mean, everything should be on this level, just like your Coke pile back in the day. Yeah. And they still thought like that. And it's like, dude, this is not like that. We're in a different period now. And Tony Levin's emailing me going, is he straight? I'm not playing shit if he ain't straight. Yeah. And then I get down where me and Don Richard are having dinner with Jerry Murad, and he's like, Dick straight? If he ain't straight, I don't give a fuck. I ain't playing with him. Yeah. I'm like, wow, what a world we're living in here,
back to that story about too, and segue to that story when Dick used my aunt. I ended up friending him on Facebook way before he passed away, and he messaged and he said, "What? Do I know you from Michigan?" And I said, "Well," and I explained the situation where I had bought my first amp, and yours broke down, and we were at Roll Air Rink, and you were with the Bossman, and you turned everything on 10. And he wrote back, he said, "Wow, I'm sorry, man. Did I break it?" He said, "Because I'll replace it." I said, "No, in fact, it still works. I still have that original amp. It's the old Bandmaster that I bought back from Herder Music."
No, you still got it.
I still got it.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, but anyway, so he did write back.
He was kind.
He was kind about it, though, which I thought was pretty damn nice, from somebody like him.
It's funny because Bob Hausler, we had him on one of our early podcasts, and Bob's like, Bob played with everybody in town, and Wagner he goes sagging on, and he's like, Dick always come across the street and go, "Hey, Bob, can we borrow your PA system?" And I'm like, oh, don't break it. Please don't break it. He'd always borrow Bob's stuff as amp or his PA or something, you know. And,
Yeah, I know.
and it was like, oh, it was it was cool that some of you guys had some good shit back there for a year, you know.
We did, and I mean, it was kind of fun. Like the custom PA was the best thing in the world because it had all that padding on there.
Yeah.
And when you travel in a van, you could lay on there and take a snooze because the double has a bed. They had these big columns that were
Yeah.
about that. Remember those?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And ours was
And they're
black.
cushy.
Yeah,
We
they were
had a
nice.
garage, we had a
Yeah.
basement band at that time, and our lead singer, apparently his parents bought us a custom PA system, and it was blue
Hmm.
padding, like sparkles. And
Yeah, I
something.
remember the blue sparkle ones.
And it was huge, and we never got a gig out of my
Yeah.
parents' basement.
We had a black. We won the black. We
Bobby
got a black one.
Ballarama was in that for a while in
Yeah.
my band
Oh yeah,
after he left Question Mark.
that's awesome. You have
He
any
said
tapes of that?
he remembers. Well, I remember jamming with you guys, and I thought, okay, well that's one day, you know. But I thought he was a member, but he was way above us
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah, he's a good player, Bobby.
One time I went to Larry's when he first moved out here, around the block out here on Nolet, and Larry goes, we were hooking up for something, I don't remember what. I had to go, I was going to take some photos of him. Yeah, Paul wanted photos back in the day. I did a lot of shit for Paul when Larry was doing stuff. And I open the door and I hear jamming, and it's Steve, Frankie, Bobby, and Larry. And they all got joints coming out of their mouths. And Bobby goes, "You didn't bring your camera, did you? Put that fucker away. I don't want no fucking pictures, man." I'm like,
Oh,
and Larry goes, "The fuck in here." I'm like, "I'm alright." And Stevie's like,
did
"No,
you get
brother."
pictures?
I
No.
did after Bobby's
Or
like, "I do
anybody
not
came
want
with
weed in
that?
my
That
face
sounds
when
like
you
a
taking my
good
picture."
jam.
And Frankie's all like, "What's this gonna be?" He was doing his thing. I'm like, "Whatever, man." It was
They
funny as
sounded
hell.
good the other night, I thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The dance floor, I mean, it was like I was telling you that night. My friend in Ann Arbor started